Be careful where you're cutting. Be careful what changes you're making. And also be careful about the changes that you're not going to make. Because if you can make a simple change and it makes a difference, I think we need to take a look at that. That's not cutting, that's investing. I'm Shep Hyken. I'm a customer service and experience expert. That's what I'm known for. I've been doing this for a long, long time. My business actually started in 1983, but if you go back to when I was just 12 years old, I started my first business. I worked in maintenance. I worked in a retail convenience store. I worked in restaurants. Anyway, graduated college, and I said, what am I going to do with my life? And I ventured into the idea of being a public speaker, a professional speaker. And over the years, my expertise in the whole concept of service and experience, which is what I was drawn to from the very beginning, has evolved. And here we are today talking to you. What could be better? When this first happened, I'm like overwhelmed. I'm not sure what's going on. This is nothing that I think any of us in our lifetimes pretty much have experienced. And I went into about 2 weeks of deep thought. My two daughters were laid off of their jobs. They're in New York City. I have a son in Nashville, Tennessee, that's a musician. And obviously there's no place for him to perform because they're not allowed in public places. So I'm thinking about my kids. I'm thinking about my job as a speaker. I go on stage in front of large groups of people at conferences. We're over with that. So I went into about, I'm going to say 2 weeks of deep thought. I studied everybody in my business, what they were doing to adapt, what they were complaining about, what they were optimistic about. And I formulated a plan in that 2 weeks. And I realized I was forced to make a pivot. And that was, instead of being on stage in front of thousands of people, I'm going to be on camera in front of thousands of people. And since that time, I've done, almost, I'm going to say at least 3, if not maybe 4 or 5 presentations every week. My optimism says things will be back to where I'm on stage in front of people at some point. My realistic outlook is I can't tell you exactly when that's going to be. I think I might know, but depending upon what's going on in the world, I have to constantly change those expectations. I think there's a lot of fear out there and a lack of confidence with some of our clients that we've worked with before. They're trying to figure out what they're going to do. One of my friends was in the restaurant business and he was forced to basically shut down. And he said, I could shut down and lay my employees off and maybe even go out of business depending how long this lasts. But you know what? I noticed that grocery stores are allowed to stay open. So what if I took my restaurant and I turned it into a food market? I wonder if that would work. That's exactly what he did. He made the pivot. And I used that word pivot earlier in the conversation or earlier in this interview. And that's what companies, and myself included, need to constantly be thinking about. What do we do to adapt? I think that COVID-19 has accelerated and pushed us into the future, forcing myself and companies to adapt and adopt existing technologies and ways of doing business that maybe we thought wouldn't come for a while, or maybe we hoped never would ever come. That's what I've done, and I recognize other companies have done the same. We pivot, we make changes, we adapt to what's happening, we adopt existing technology, and we make it work. One of my friends / clients who I share insights with owns a small group of hotels, and his occupancy rate of these hotels was 80 some odd %, very high prior to COVID-19 hitting us. Now it's down below 20%. It's actually recently been bumping up a little bit, but he started to cut in areas, and we talked about the areas that he was cutting in. And one of the areas, he said, I let a lot of my housekeeping staff go. And I said, I just want you to think about this. Be careful where you cut, because a dirty room, whether it's in the middle of a pandemic or in the best of times, is still a dirty room, and customers will remember that dirty room and they won't come back. Every company needs to recognize where they cut. If they cut in places that are easily seen and recognized by the customer, they're potentially making a pretty big mistake. So that's what I think companies, entrepreneurs, any type of business, small or big, needs to worry about. Be careful where you're cutting. Be careful what changes you're making. And also be careful about the changes that you're not going to make. Because if you can make a simple change and it makes a difference, I think we need to take a look at that. That's not cutting, that's investing. Thank you so much for watching the Entrepreneurial Spirit by Designhill. Sure, if you'd like to learn more about what I do, go to hyken.com. That's HYKEN.com. We have a great YouTube channel with hundreds of video tips on customer service and experience. You can get that at shep.tv.